Welcome back to Learning with Merit. Today we are going to cover archive files. In this video we're going to look at what are archive files. We're going to view some settings in the File Explorer and change those so we can look at some file name extensions. We're going to look at creating zip files and extracting zip files, things you may be doing every day when people send you files over the internet, and then my special little tool that I like called the 7-zip tool. So first let's look at what are archive files. Well, an archive file is a computer file that contains one or more files along with some metadata. Now this is important because that metadata can describe the types of files and information that is being stored in the archive. Okay? And so why might we need an archive? Well, the primary reason why you're going to be seeing archives on the internet is mostly, for compression. Compression is the process of reducing the size of a file. So when we send information over the internet, we want it to travel as quickly as possible, get you as much information as quickly as we can, and also reduce the amount of time that you're sitting there waiting on something to download. So if we have something that's, for example, 4 gigabytes in size and you have slow internet, it may take a while. But if we can reduce that down from 4 gigabytes, but still give you the same amount of information in the end, that's what we want to do. So that's why we have compression there. Here are some different compression file types that we may see. Zip is probably the most common. We will see .rar, .tar, .jar, and .7z. .7z will be for 7-zip files we will talk about in a minute. Like I said, zip is the most common. Jar is like a Java archive. You'll see those for the Java programming language. Anyway, they all have their special uses, but it is important to understand that all of these are archive files of some sort. So let's take a look at how do we create a zip file. And before we do that, we're actually going to look at some settings in File Explorer to make our lives a little bit easier. So we're going to minimize that. Here we have our Windows 10 installation, and I have a copy of Bram Stoker's Dracula right here, and it's actually a fairly large book, right? And maybe I want to compress that down a little bit to send to people. Now this is still a fairly small document, but just to make it easy, I wanted to start with something like this. So if we go to File Explorer, which we can get to down here with this icon, we can also hit Windows and R, and we will get this right here, and we can type, instead of regedit, we can type Explorer, and it will open up the File Explorer for us right there. So Windows and R brings up that run dialog blocks, and now we're in the Explorer. So if you go up here to View, up at the top, you can click on View, and there's a couple things we need. Most importantly, we need the file name extension, so we're going to click on that first. And then we're going to click on Hidden Items, and then we're going to click on Item Checkboxes. So I just enable all of those because I need to be able to see all of that information whenever I'm working on the computer. If I go to my desktop now, what we'll see is that we have Dracula.txt right there, and if I was to go back to View and turn off file name extensions, suddenly see Dracula just says Dracula. There's no Dracula.txt. I want to know what type of file extension I'm working with. So we can open this up and we can look at it with Notepad or whatever other tool we want to look at, and it's a very large book. In fact, it is the actual text of Dracula. So let's see how we can compress this. So if we right click on this, you will see that there are several different options. Now, if you want to use Windows built-in stuff, we are going to go down here to Send To, and then you will see Compressed Zip Folder. So we're going to hit that, and you will see that it creates a file called Dracula.zip. Now if I try to open that, it will actually open it to let me look in it. And it'll even show me the ratio that it's compressed at. So it's 61% of the original size, which is actually, a pretty big deal if you can reduce files by that much. So now if I wanted to send this, you see we've only got, or excuse me, it's not 61% of the original size. It's compressed by 61%. So you can see the difference between the two there. We have 853 kilobytes in the first .text file, and then it's compressed down to 334 kilobytes. So it's a much smaller file now. Now, if I want to extract this file, I can right-click on it, and I can go down, and we're looking for Extract All here. So we can click Extract All. It will ask you where to extract it. In this case, I just want it in the same folder, and I have a checkbox for showing the extracted files when it's completed, and I can hit Extract. And you'll see that it extracts it to its own folder called Dracula, and here is Dracula.txt back at the original size. So that is how we create a zip file. That is how we extract a zip file. Now, the tool I wanted to talk about is called 7-Zip. So we look down here at Google Chrome. Here is the web page for 7-Zip. I like 7-Zip because it will do a couple of things for us. One, it makes it much easier, in my opinion, to look at the files and see what you're dealing with before you ever extract the files, which is a good feature to have because some zip files can contain malicious software. Okay? Executables that you may not want to execute, or you may double click on it thinking that it's a zip file and it's actually hidden and it's an executable file, and lots of different things can happen there. So I like that 7-Zip will give me some extra tools on how to use it. For most of us, we're going to download the 64-bit x64 version right here for our Windows machines, and I've actually already got it installed. So when I look at this Dracula.zip file, I can right click and you'll see 7-Zip right there. And I can do all kinds of things. I can open the archive, I can extract the files, I can extract them here, I can extract them to a folder I want, I can test the archive, I can add to it, I can compress it and email it. I can do all kinds of different things here. And it will create it as a .7z file because that's what 7-Zip uses. I personally prefer 7-Zip, so that's what I use. And I would recommend that you look into it too and consider using it, especially if you deal with zip files a lot. So for example, let's just take a look real quick. Let's open the archive and take a look at it. So it opens this little tool, and I can see here's what's in the archive, here's the size, here's how it's been modified, some different things about it. Now, that doesn't mean that I'll always be able to read the file, but in this case I can kind of read the file and look at it. But anyway, this is a very useful little tool for dealing with those archives that isn't built into Windows. I hope that you learned something about archive files and it helps you work with them in the future. And I appreciate you watching Learning with Merit.